and welcome to the second episode of the Yorkshire Football Podcast. I'm Dom, and I'm joined today by John Riley, Sheffield Wednesday fan, Adam Etherington, Leeds United fan, and Mike Helinski, Bradford City fan. And we're coming to you live from the Editor's Draft in Leeds. Hello, boys.
Hey up, Dom, you all right?
I'll do.
Adam's busy doing social. He's the self-appointed social media guy on this podcast.
I think we've already discussed we do need to up our game on social.
Do a bit more
rather
socials.
Like some of our teams as well.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot has happened since the last podcast. Bradford City have got a new manager, which will please Mike after he was very vocal on the last episode. Leeds United somehow are still second, but they're edging ever closer to, 15th, Adam? I don't know what.
It's a matter of time.
And Sheffield Wednesday, John, they've imploded. Do you still love them?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Sheffield Wednesday. I'm just here for a bit of balance with my friends. That's all, guys. Yeah, let's just be friends.
John, you can cover Sheffield United today.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, the Blades. Yeah, great team.
Well, tell you what, let's start with Sheffield United then, shall we? Let's get it out of the way because they are unbelievable. I can't believe what I'm seeing. I think they're looking like finishing top 6. Chris Wilder, amazing. Billy Sharp scored a goal. Does that cover it?
I think it pretty much does. We mentioned last time on the podcast about just how well they've done, some of the star performers. It's no coincidence that the one doubter on the last podcast, Matt Goodwin, is now no longer here. Can only assume he's realised he's wrong about Sheffield United and he's now...
Although we were quite aggressive to him from the start, I would like to apologise to Gooders from the off. Didn't mean what we said, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, that has been edited out, Dom.
Oh, has it? Fine.
So
good.
People won't know what you're talking about.
It was Mike I'm apologising on behalf of Mike Helinski.
Oh, cheers,
yeah.
mate.
But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And you look at teams like Sheffield United, Wolves, Leicester, it really does feel like this season there is a bit of a shift in terms of the power clubs in the Premier League. Sheffield United, again, great win at home to Bournemouth and just showing that character, going a goal down in tough conditions, coming back, getting the result. It's absolutely amazing what they're doing there. Everyone just seems, all the players seem so bought into the culture and they've got some real quality there. And I think, I don't see why they couldn't get European football.
Yeah, I know we all support EFL clubs in here, but I think it shows just how strong the top end of the Championship is now. That kind of gap between bottom of Premier League, top of Championship, seems to have kind of eroded. When you've got see how hard it was for Sheffield United to get promoted last season, to get out of the Championship at Leeds' expense, to then kind of see how they're flourishing in the Premier League. I think that kind of gap, probably the last bottom 10 of the Premier League now, to the top, maybe it's the money, maybe it's additional funds you get, but I think any team who can make that leap into Premier League, I don't think they have to worry anymore. I think even Villa and Norwich have still got that chance of staying up.
So are you saying that when Leeds go up, we'll be back in Europe within a year or two?
Behave.
Yeah, I was going to say, when?
Back in Europe as well.
But by the time Leeds get into the Premier League, Europe won't exist anymore, I don't think.
The question could be in a few weeks, if Sheffield United do get the Champions League, can Barcelona do it on a Tuesday night at Sheffield, or Wednesday night or at Sheffield?
It would be a very interesting experiment.
We made it very clear that cliches are banned on this podcast.
Apologies.
But I think the big question for Sheffield United is, undoubtedly they've had an amazing season. Hopefully they qualify for Europe. I think it'd be great for the City, great for Yorkshire, in fact.
Don't talk about my City like that. It wouldn't be great for the City.
It would, John, wouldn't it? Stop whinging.
It's about time Sheffield had a club they could be proud of, I think. So
yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? What Waddle was that was last time you were good, when you had Waddle, Watson, back in the 90s.
Yeah, we've always been good.
Okay, right. The point I was trying to make. Sheffield United, unbelievable season, but will they be able to carry it on next season? Because there's always that second season sort of hangover, isn't there? That it's not just about, staying in the Premier League. It's what do you do next? Because it's going to be harder to get players because they're going to want more money from you. There's going to be stiffer competition. The players that he's got are EFL players, in inverted commas, meaning that, he's kind of just brought that same squad through and they've all improved and all playing extraordinarily well and been given a good grounding in the EFL. But next season, they've got to improve the squad. You've got to be able to keep it up because everybody around you is improving as well. Everybody else around you is spending a lot of money to bring in better quality players so that they can better you next season. So can Sheffield United repeat what they've done this season so far?
I think we sort of briefly touched on this on the last episode and sort of where my opinion is with it, as sort of they've been promoted and the confidence is high, and Wilder's one of those managers sort of that he's got all the players sort of playing for him, and obviously results have been going their way, they've been looking good and they're sort of on that form of confidence and they're going well. And like I said, does that really carry on next season? We've seen it with so many clubs where it hasn't. And where I worry for Sheffield United is, even if they do get into Europe, whether it be Europa League or Champions League, is really, if you see top quality players, are they going to go to Sheffield United and play? If there's like a Chelsea chasing those type of players in London, they're not going to go to Sheffield. So that's where I really worry. Even if they get in Europe, will they attract the top players? And I don't think they will. And could they cope with playing in Europe, 2 English Cup competitions, and the Premier League, where you see the likes of Man City moaning about it, and they've got one of the biggest squads in the Premier League. So I do fear for Sheffield United next season in terms of, I'm not saying they're going to get relegated, but I fear from in terms of being top half of the Premier League next season.
By the way, we're not in intensive care if you can hear a beeping in the background.
That's John's heart monitor. Just in case we mention Sheffield Wednesday again. We're recording this right next to the kitchen. We've already had some opera singing today from the chef, so hopefully we get a little bit more of that later.
I must be the only person, by the way, who voted Remain, who was hoping that Brexit means we get kicked out of Europe and the Champions League if the players manage to qualify.
You're so selfish, John.
Long live Boris Johnson.
Let me ask you this. What would you rather now? Sheffield United miss out on Europe, or you sneak into 6th, so no guarantee to go up? If you could have one or the other right now, which would you choose?
Us sneak into the playoffs, definitely.
Are we playing Would You Rather? Chris Hughton or Bielsa?
We'll come on to that.
Before we do, right, I think that's enough on Sheffield United. Adam, how can people contact us if they want to?
People can contact us via social media. So if you just search Yorkshire Football Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've also got a YouTube. We'll be putting our episodes on there. And you'll see our lovely blue logo designed by our friend Ross Williams. Drop us a message. We'll be sure to get back to you, and you should be able to find us across all major podcast providers.
You can only follow us if you're from Yorkshire, and you can only listen if you're from Yorkshire. If you're not, forget it.
A couple of guys, friends actually contacted me on social media after the last pod, asking why we didn't talk about Donny Rovers as much. I've got a resident Donny Rovers fan joining us, but as ever, he's been travelling to that London back a few times. Big time now. Do you think he'll be in touch with us, Don?
I think that we do have a video message from Flanners, actually, do we, Adam?
We do.
We do? All right, let's cut to Doncaster Rovers now then. This is Flanners talking about his beloved Doncaster Rovers.
2 games in 4 days for Donny. A point at home to Rochdale on Saturday, then 3 points at home to Bolton on Tuesday. What was the main thing we took from that? We're not 4th in playoff places, and James Coppinger is still one of the best players in League One. He's 39 years old now, still dishing out man of the match performances and assists out the back of his head like he has been doing the past 47 million years for Donny, it seems like. But an interesting point, Darren Moore, his side, right now, are a point lesser off than they were Grant McCann's side was last season. After what all went on in the summer, Marquis leaving, that's 25 goals, Wilkes, that's X amount of goals, Herbie Kane, etc. What a job he's done. We're climbing them playoff places. Gillingham away on Saturday. They're on a good unbeaten run at the minute. I think they got a last-minute winner against Blackpool the other day. But 3 points there will work wonders for us. So come on, the boys.
So Flanners there, relatively happy with how things are going for Doncaster Rovers so far, I'm assuming, because this is pre-recorded. But he must be happy. It is going pretty well for Donny. And Darren Moore there working wonders at Rovers.
Point behind Ipswich and with a game in hand, which, I mean, a couple of months ago, Ipswich were flying at the top of the league with Wickham, but Wickham themselves have dropped now to 4th. Ipswich down outside the playoffs in 7th, which, if they miss out on the playoffs, that'd be quite astonishing. We need another shout out for another Yorkshire team, Rotherham. Still top of Sky Bet League One, flying
Absolutely
high.
Flying.
And playing unbelievable football. Unbelievable football. Their training is so intense. Paul Warne's the manager, isn't he?
Yeah.
And what a job he's doing down there.
Have you ever met Paul Warne?
I have met Paul Warne, yeah.
Have you been at that football club before?
I was down there not so long ago, yeah.
You should have said.
I spoke to their analyst. Did I mention that before? I did actually speak to their analyst, and I actually was speaking to him about how much of a difference managers actually make to football teams. And he was like, well, yeah, in the Premier League, those players, it's not only about the better skill level, it's also about what they're able to do, what sort of information they're able to retain. So say, for instance, Kevin De Bruyne, central midfield, knows exactly what his role is. But if, say, they're playing against Arsenal and Arsenal bring Lacazette on, Kevin De Bruyne's role might change and he has to retain that information. And that's the difference, this analyst at Rotherham, that's the difference he was saying between Premier League and EFL, is that quite often in training in EFL, you might only be doing 1 or 2, 3 tactics per match because the players just, they're not able to retain any more information than that. No offence, it's just the way football is.
No, it's a really interesting point, and I think last year it was a point which was labelled at Leeds, and you could see it, and I hate to bring it back to Leeds, but that's what I know, but it wasn't so much physical burnout with Leeds at the end of last season. All the stats showed that Leeds was still working hard, they were still doing just as much running. The Bielsa burnout wasn't physical, but it did seem to be more mental, and the players did look to have, run out of ideas, and they look to be panicking in certain situations. And I do think there's definitely something in that's one of the main differences between your top level and your still very, very good levels.
But quite a common complaint from fans, and I've done it before, is, why is everyone blaming the manager? The players have got to take some responsibility. And it's sort of true, but there's a difference between a professional footballer and a Sunday League footballer. When I used to play Sunday League, I wouldn't care what the manager said. I'd just get on the pitch and just play whatever position.
Is that when you were playing in the Veterans League?
Yeah, too young. And then I got exposed and kicked out, but it's not that. It's not time for that. You've made me lose my train of thought there. So yeah, there's a massive difference, obviously. And the difference is that a professional footballer pretty much plays exactly how the manager asks him to play, sees out those tactics. Occasionally, you get unbelievable individual creativity from players, and that's what makes these players stand out. But professional footballers have to play the way the manager plays. If the manager says, right, you're left back and you're not allowed to move out of this third of the pitch, then that player's not going to do it. Even if fans are berating him, saying, why is he not getting up? Why is he not overlapping? Because the manager's not told him to. And that is why managers get a lot of the flack. That's why a lot of it is on a manager's head when things go wrong. John, Bradford as well, but John in particular, because you've still got the manager who's under increasing pressure at Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, kind of get your point there, Dom. I think in terms of Monk at Wednesday, very massive shouts at the moment. Discontent, I think, around the whole club, not just around him. We've got players who were performing to a much higher level, even just 2 months ago. It now seems that we're trying to change format, change shape, bring in new players. I don't think there's an overall kind of strategy in place. Now, it pains me to say this, but go back to Sheffield United, when Wilder came in, he kind of implemented a strategy, and he kind of fitted in probably lesser skilled players into a quality strategy, but made them improve. So kind of the sum of the parts is greater than the whole, as the kind of saying is. I know we said no cliches. But that's what's kind of missing at Wednesday, and I think it's what's missing at quite a number of clubs in the Championship. There's big players, but they just don't fit into the strategy. And I think it's something that is kind of short-term thinking from Monk, from the club, and it's something that probably in this day and age managers aren't going to get that time. But years ago, when clubs would kind of not change their manager for 2, 3, 4 years and then go on a successful run, it's kind of what we've been missing, short-term thinking. And whether are fans wrong to kind of call for a manager's head if not being successful? Probably not, because they pay good money to go and watch them, pay good money to kind of see teams and just expect to be entertained. And if they're not being because of a lack of strategy, a lack of forward thinking, I don't blame them, to be fair.
But things can sorry, Mike. So things can change pretty quickly, can't they? Because it doesn't seem like that long ago that you were raving about Gary Monk. Same at Leeds United. I've seen tweets this weekend from people kicking off about Bielsa, saying maybe he's a good manager to start with, and then it all starts to go wrong. Bradford City, who we will move on to later to talk about in more detail, but it fell on the manager's head because his tactics were terrible, and it's been proven since Stuart McCall came in, 2 much better performances. But back to Bielsa. He seems
I'd rather stay on Sheffield Wednesday, but go on.
But I mean, it's a big deal, isn't it? Because Bielsa's known as this football genius, and yet last quarter of the season, same as last year, Leeds look to have bottled it, for use of a better phrase.
It's quite astonishing, really, that we're still in second place, considering we've won 1 out of 7 games. We've conceded first in the last 7 games. We're having a series of individual errors, not least from Kiko Casilla in goal. which is not helping things. Just really lacking that sort of convincing, dominant display that we were seeing so often in the first half of the season. And it's very hard to pinpoint exactly where it's gone wrong, because even though defensively we were good in the first half of the season, on paper we could still see there were issues from defending set pieces, from the goalkeeper again looking a little bit shaky in certain situations. But what we did in the first half of the season is we would dominate possession so much that opposition teams couldn't get at us, and when they did win the ball back off us, we'd be straight onto them, and we'd defend by attacking. Now it's just a slight change, I think, in terms of how we play, and it's all gone wrong. And it started since the last podcast. We had Wigan at home. Again, the game which ruined our season last year. Same again comes and happens. You know, we're dominating the game, we're dominating the ball, and then they score from a corner which is deflected by the player, essentially marking the corner taker for any potential short corners.
But does it boil down to stubbornness? It's often the downfall of a manager, particularly it seems in the EFL, that these players are stubborn.
I think Bielsa has been, he's very, very nearly the perfect manager. He's the way he plays, the brand of football, the results. You can't argue with what you're watching when you're watching a Bielsa team. But I think it's his stubbornness which is his downfall. And then I think at the moment, by playing players who are outperforming, such as Casilla, Bamford, is actually the reverse is happening. It's got past the point where he's sticking with them to give them confidence, and now they're kind of being hung out to dry. And you can see with Casilla another error against Brentford. It feels like he needs a break rather than to be left in to get his confidence back.
But Bielsa's been quoted as saying Casilla will play next game, and so will Bamford.
And to be fair, when it comes to managers, you should listen to Adam here. He's definitely got some expertise when it comes to management. Ads, you met a certain former Premier League manager this week, which you've posted pictures up on social media.
I did. I was at the game at Brentford on Tuesday. I happened to bump into Pochettino.
Hang on, bump into or go on?
Well, I kind of waited outside the toilets for him. He came out, and the main reason I did it was to make my manager jealous, because he's a Tottenham fan and loves Pochettino. So I kind of loitered outside the toilets for him. He came out. I went to shake his hand. He wouldn't shake my hand because his hands were soaking wet through, because the dryer at Brentford's in Brentford's box wasn't working. But I did get a picture with him, yeah. But again, he was there to see Bielsa, a Bielsa disciple himself. But I think with Leeds at the moment, we just need to ride. We need to ride this bad run of form. We've got better fixtures coming up, but I do think it would help putting some fresh blood into that team, and that starts in goal. Meslier looked very good against Arsenal. Bamford, maybe Augustine's not quite 100% yet, but Bamford's another one who looks like he could do with a bit of a rest. And yeah, I was on the fence last time. I'm even more on the fence now.
Just sort of going back to your point around that stubborn and Bielsa, I was having actually an interesting conversation about Leeds the other day, and around, because I keep hearing this word stubborn, especially when it comes to subs in the game, about Bielsa changing it. And I raised the point, I've only seen Leeds mainly when they're on television, so I've not watched them obviously as much as you have. But I sort of see it as, is it stubborn, or is it Bielsa does not have no plan B when it comes to subs?
Bielsa's plan B is to do plan A better. And he's quoted as saying that it's there's no point bringing on Ati Nuiu and pumping it up forward, because
but sometimes I get that's not the way, it's not the way the Leeds fans want to see. They want to see great football, but for a team to get out of the Championship and to sort of being able to adapt against different teams, is that not crucial to get promoted? So, for example, if you look at the conditions this week in midweek games, obviously absolutely atrocious conditions, and you're going to come up against teams potentially that play the long ball football, etc., that way you might need to adapt, maybe not for the full 90 minutes, but the game might not be going your way, and you might need to adapt for the last 20 minutes to win the game. Do you think Bielsa's got that in his locker to adapt, or he's too stubborn to say, no, I'm playing the way I believe, but the case, he might not get the result off the back of it, and that's what might cost you, because he won't adapt because of that?
I don't mind Bielsa's stubbornness when it comes to the style of football. I mean, we very nearly went up last year, a lot better than every single previous manager we've had at this level. We were flying high again this season. I do think we're a little bit of an unlucky side.
Oh my God.
If you look at the stats, we dominate every game. We tend to just get, it always seems to be the one chance the opposition get, they convert with. But I do think Bielsa's stubbornness is a problem when it comes to the certain repeated selection of certain players. And that's the one area in which I'd like to see a bit of fresh blood in the side and hopefully rectify this run of form, which is
why has he put
alarming.
these players in if he's not going to give them? I understand they might not be fully match fit, but the Man City guy, was he not even on the bench against Brentford? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, he's not been on the bench for the last 2 games.
Right. Okay. So why bring these players in January and not even give them an opportunity?
It's.
He don't know. Yeah, he don't know.
You look at every other team. If Barcelona sign a new player, they don't leave the player out.
We look at West Brom. West Brom signed Callum Robinson straight in the squad.
Yeah, Scott Hogan's made an immediate impact at Birmingham. It's Liverpool are the only other club really who do anything similar to Bielsa, where they just don't put new signings in. No, in terms of the policy. I just
thought you were comparing Bielsa and Klopp and Leeds and Liverpool and.
Definitely not.
Right, okay, just checking.
We know Bielsa's better than Solskjaer, but
let's wrap up the Leeds United chat. Adam's getting progressively angrier, so we need to
I wish you could
nip
see
it
his
in the
face
bud
right now.
But final question on Leeds United. Adam, I'll put this to you before going to the other lads for their opinions. What happens if Leeds United don't go up this season?
If Leeds United don't go up, Bielsa leaves, Calvin Phillips leaves, and suddenly we're back to square one. I don't know, in terms of the...
You mean League One?
Yes.
He's out there. It won't surprise me. Ben White leaves. We've got no chance of signing him permanently if we don't go up. And then we all of a sudden we're looking at who can we get in to replace Bielsa. I think we've sort of committed to this style of football now. There is the assistant manager Carlos Corberón. He's very, very highly rated coach who's sort of been groomed for the role. Very, very highly rated assistant. He's one who's been groomed for the role, but it depends. Do the board think that style of football, if it doesn't work with Bielsa, it doesn't work with anyone? Plus, we'll have lost the two most influential and talented players in the squad. Do we just go get a Chris Hughton? I'd rather not think about this horrific nightmare of Leeds.
Okay, fine.
Good quick answer that anyway, Cheers.
Yeah, very good. Right, tell you what, we'll move on to Bradford City very shortly, but first let's go get Adam some tissue because we need to wipe away those tears.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Okay, so on to the bantams. Bradford City, Mike. Last episode, you went on a bit of a rant about Gary Bowyer.
Yeah.
This episode, there's no Gary Bowyer. Read into that what you will, but I think you had a very influential part to play in the sacking of Gary Bowyer. But the big news is that the main man has returned, the Messiah, Stuart McCall.
I'm sat here with a smile on my face. But yeah, it's good to know that people at the top of Bradford are listening to our podcast anyway, so that's good to know. Much happier. I'll be honest, I'll hold my hands up and everyone around this table, I'll say it to all of you. McCall wasn't my first choice, thinking longer term, but if I take a step back and sort of repeat what I said in the last podcast about where the club was at with the disconnect between the fans and the club, that there was only really one man that was going to bring that back together, and Don Mew was at the game on Saturday against Grimsby, and at that point when Stuart McCall walked out, I've not had that feeling 2 or 3 years, with the whole atmosphere, we're just singing Stuart's name and the shivers down my spine. The lads are laughing at me, but honestly it was unbelievable.
It was class.
What were the attendance? About 18,000, and Grimsby bought 2,500, but still it was an unbelievable atmosphere. But yeah, I'm much happier, and the big thing for me was, it goes back to what you were about before, saying about the point around managers and the influence they have, and it falls on the manager's head. The football we were seeing under Boy, and I don't want to reflect on him too much, was absolutely atrocious, and it was very negative. But we had 3 training sessions, and we went into Saturday and we saw a total different team. We saw an organised team, and we saw a team with a bit of fire about them.
But Bradford City are very, very lucky. that they've got a man who, when they need a quick fix, it's like
100%.
Super Stuart. It's like, where is it? Bring him in.
In his interview,
it's like a sticking plaster.
There's no other manager that would do this. In his interview, when he said when he signed, he'd not even signed a contract. He got the call the night before, Monday night, and McCall, because knowing that we had the game on Saturday, wanted to be in training. He said, "We'll sort the contract out after training." So he turned up to training and took it. Him and his assistant manager, Kenny Black, and let's not forget about Kenny Black, big influence behind the scenes as well.
Passionate coach.
They turned up to training and there were no contracts in place. So he just shows sort of the commitment and how much he cares. But the big thing
to be fair, they were both out of the job. So
yeah, true. But the big thing that excites me is McCall's attacking style of football. He's already said he prefers to win 5-4 than 1-0. And we've sort of seen that really. We saw that on Saturday.
He's got no choice. Defence is rubbish at the minute.
True, yeah. But no, for me, the fans are back with the club. There's 14 games to go. And it's a bit of a roll of the dice. I don't know. I don't really want to call it whether we'll make playoffs. And I don't even think automatic promotions are unrealistic if we can get on a run now. We won Saturday. We were losing 1-0 at half time. McCall obviously went in at half time and absolutely pumped the players. Came out a different team. We got a win. That was our first win since New Year's Day. So now with that win, a bit of confidence. Who knows what happens?
I'm just loving the idea that Stuart McCall just sits by his phone in his house in Bingley or wherever for 6 months waiting for a call from Bradford City.
It's not even a call, is it? It's like the bat signal. It like looks up over Valparaiso. big ginger silhouette saying, "Stuart, come on, lad."
and he always comes. He always does it. This is like his fifth return.
And it's a good achievement for a Leeds fan, really, to do that at Bradford. So fair play to
He
him.
grew up around Ellen Road. We make no bones about it. But Bradford City's in his blood.
I mean,
It bleeds claret and amber.
Like I said on the last podcast, McCall in that playoff run you had a couple of years ago in League One, he did have you playing some really good football in that playoff semi-final. Like I mentioned before, watching that and thinking this is a championship level team and championship level performance. Obviously, he didn't get it done then, but I do think he is. Look from the outside looking in, it feels like the only appointment really he could have got. The
difference is the calibre of player he has now are just nowhere near what we had when we were in League One, which is fine. We're in League Two now. You know, we've got a decent squad there. There are good players. It needed somebody to get the best out of them. And like I said earlier, Bradford City are very lucky that they've got a manager who can come in, reconnect the fans instantly because it's Stuart McCall and he's got a massive history with the club, but also get the players going as well. He's a motivator. He's a great man manager. The players had seemingly lost faith in Gary Bowyer's tactics, and they're pretty much shut up shop really. But the big thing, and I'll come to you for this, Mike, is that the club let Gary Bowyer have the January transfer window, then a week later sacked him, which isn't a good idea.
Yeah, that's the bit I don't understand, because if you look at the James Vaughan situation, and I am devastated Vaughan's gone, because I think him under McCall, potentially Vaughan and Novak or whoever it may be alongside Donaldson, whatever, I just think him under McCall would have been ideal. But I just look at it and I see that when that decision was made to back Bowyer to get rid of James Vaughan, whether there's been a fallout, and I agree there should never be player power at a club, there should never be. But they must have had in the back of their mind that if we lost to Oldham the following week, he was not going to be in charge. Surely they was looking 7 days ahead, 8 days, 9 days ahead, thinking this is the situation. If we back Boy here, but then loses a week later, we're getting rid of him. And that's the bit that I can't get my head round, unless it was a very sort of narrow mind was, yes, right, we're not backing, we're not going to keep Vaughan here because there is player power and there's been a fallout. And we'll deal with results after that. But for me, that's the bit I can understand. I understand the Doyle situation. Doyle obviously didn't want to come back to us. He's playing the football of his life down at Swindon.
I mean, he didn't score for us in 4, went back to Swindon and scored straight away.
I saw a stat today, since January 2020, so not long ago, Doyle scored 1 goal, McCartan 3, and Novak 2. So who's the real winners?
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
isn't it?
It's you're right. We brought in Guthrie and Novak, both Gary Bowyer signings, both not players I would have particularly wanted at the club. And I mean, Novak's all right. I wouldn't say that because he scored 2 in 2. First one, definitely not his goal. How he's claiming that is beyond me. But it's just weird. McCall could have done so much more with Vaughan.
Yeah.
And I think you're right about what you're saying about Vaughan. I think he didn't want to be at the club. He wanted to be near his family. He's a Scouser and he's gone back to Tranmere. Fair enough. If that's the case, he's obviously not going to be putting it in for the club. Let him go, try and get his wages off the bill. Absolutely fine with that. it's what we do now. It's what you do when you're losing those creative goal scorers. What can we get the best out of Novak? A player who doesn't score that many.
That's what worries me. And I was saying to my dad after the game on Tuesday that Novak, I thought the last 2 games he's looked good. He's put himself about. His first thought is to get in the box, but they said he's not a prolific goal scorer if you look at his career. And what worries me that Novak and Donaldson are very similar type players. That there isn't enough goals between them two. I know McCartan played out wide and left, but for me, really, going forward, I think Novak McCartan's your partnership, and I think we go with that because I can't see Novak and Donaldson playing together because they're very similar players, and I can't see enough goals between them two.
No, I know what you're saying. Donaldson does seem to have a part to play. When he plays, things seem to happen, and I know that there are a lot of fans who maybe are less experienced in the game without wanting to like piss anyone off, but he contributes. He's great at holding the ball up.
Yeah.
He's a good motivator. We need someone who's a captain like that. James Vaughan wasn't that man.
No.
He wasn't a good motivator of the team. I hate to say it, but like we need that Gary Jones sort of character, someone who's going to grab players by the scruff of the neck. Donaldson's a Bradford lad. He knows what it means to the town to do well. So I like him in the squad. But I see what you're saying. Shane McCartan, criminally underused.
Yeah.
Like he's a creative player. Every time he plays, he seems to score or contribute to the match, assists, whatever. Why was Gary Boyer not using him when we were in desperate need of someone
and
like
he
that?
went up as a League Two champion last year as well under Lincoln City. So he's proven at this record.
Was he not top scorer in the league as well?
No, I'm
scored a few though, didn't he?
He scored a few. He might have been top goal scorer at Lincoln, maybe. I'm not too sure on that, but. And he went up with Accrington from this division, so he's proven this division. And I just feel like now we need a partnership with the front two. And again, I like Donaldson. I've got nothing bad really to say about him. I just feel like Novak, especially Novak's played on McCall, so McCall trusts him. He liked him at Scunthorpe. And I just think Novak and McCartan is that partnership we've maybe been looking for a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong.
Question here, guys, from somebody who's not kind of watched Bradford that much this season. Obviously, you've only lost it, just looking at the league table, you've only lost the same amount of games as Swindon, are obviously in first place, quite a number of points in front. But do you think that's because, obviously, under Bowyer, you're playing like a negative brand of football? So defensively, obviously, you've only lost 8 games. You can't be that bad.
We had the best defensive record in EFL, or joint best in the EFL, was it?
Yeah, but you watch it. You're right, but you watch us, and you can't believe that was ever true. Like our form seemed to drop off a cliff New Year. Just absolutely look like a different team.
The reason why we've got so many draws is we were going into games even at home set up to draw. There were no sort of consideration about trying to win the game. And
we'd go 1-0 up, and then he'd switch to 5 at the back.
The biggest difference for me, which we've seen from Bowyer to McCall, is we'll come out. So, for example, Grimsby, where Grimsby scored in the final minute on Saturday. Boy's interview post-match would have been happy with that, good result, they're a good team, Grimsby, since Ian Holloway comes in, new team, all this. McCall, straight away in his interview, was like, no, that's not acceptable, we should have won that game, we need to win those type of games. And for me, straight away, that's a mentality shift that he's doing in the changing rooms. Imagine your manager going, oh, good point, lads, yeah, great point, well done, against Grimsby Town. Like, McCall knows we should be beating those type of teams if we want to get out of this league. And that's just a shift in mentality that's happened in over the week.
He's desperate to get promotion at Bradford City. Anyway, Bradford City fans, are you happy with Stuart McCall? Do you think he's going to turn the form around? And do you think he can get Bradford City promoted this season? You can contact us. How, Adam?
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and leave some comments below on our YouTube channel as well, and we'll have a look at those and get back to you.
And that goes to all fans of Yorkshire clubs covered on this podcast as well. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Right, moving on to Huddersfield Town. It's another voice call that we've had in from Gooders. We only use nicknames on here. Flanners and Gooders, they're calling in today. He's not happy. He's not happy at all.
Squeaky arse is back in full force this week, lads. It's a case of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Huddersfield at the moment, 2-0 win against Keeper out of the weekend on Saturday. Really promising performance from Steve Mounier, and you think they'd really be up for it for a midweek fixture against Cardiff, who, despite being in the running for the playoffs, have looked a little bit on and off recently. And yeah, just definition of capitulation. 1-0 up, courtesy of Danny Simpson getting dragged out of position yet again. And it was just a simple slotted pass through middle of the defence, Lee Tomlin to Josh Murphy, who, granted to him, put away a really nice dings finish, but never looked like getting back into it. Despite a good few passages of play, it was Cardiff from probably the 20th minute onwards, and that's why they ended up pumping us 3-0. From now, I remain moderately positive, but that's more down to the fact we can grind out the odd result. But more so, teams around us like Middlesbrough, Barnsley, Luton, who are pretty stuck to the bottom. I think it's going to rely on the other teams' forms around us to really help us grind out survival. But could have gone 8 points clear of the drop. We sit at 5 at the moment. Goal difference isn't great, and we've got some big fixtures coming up. So hopefully, kick on at the weekend. We go again. Hopefully Smith Rowe can keep performing the way he does and creating chances for us. But it's defensively, like I mentioned last week in the last podcast. Just need to really book up our ideas and stick to a back four that can keep up with the pace of the game. So yeah, there you have it. Up the Town.
So Gooders obviously not happy there. The Danny Cowley revolution it's a bit of a stuttering start really for him.
It is a very worrying time for Huddersfield. Still think they'll have enough if you look at what's below them and the likes of Charlton who leapfrogged them. Then I still think Huddersfield probably a bit of a stronger side than Charlton. But yeah, that's a worrying result. You never want to be going 3-0, losing 3-0 at home, especially to a sort of upper top half team.
But they just seem to be massively inconsistent. Like they've had some good results. You feel like if they could just do that every game, they'd be, miles better.
Yeah, I think the Cowleys, they're very much trying to change the style of football there and trying to create the identity that we've talked about a few times on the podcast. But I think they will be okay. But I don't blame Gooders for being worried there. Coming off the back of that result, some tough fixtures coming up, some big games, and I think the next couple are critical for Huddersfield. They don't want to turn this into a slump. They
could very easily get dragged into a proper relegation battle. Find yourself in that bottom three, and it's going to be difficult to get out.
Yeah, definitely. I think Huddersfield are kind of like a number of teams in the Championship. They're kind of a real home team. On the day at John Smith's, they can beat quite a few teams in the league, but when they go away, I just don't think they've got that strength. And especially if Grant's not playing, he's a massive miss. If I ever see that Grant's kind of out of the team through injury, or he's not playing at any team, I always fancy the visitors or the team they're playing. They'll stay up, I think, just by skin of their teeth. Just pure the fact that I think 3 teams will be slightly worse than them this season. But again, for a team who've just received another set of parachute payments, it's probably not good enough. You can understand why, as Gooders says, the Huddersfield fans aren't happy.
They're one of those sides which, if they stay up, you won't bet against them having a much better season next year and being on the brink of top half playoffs. I don't think they're the type of team who can steamroll this division. But I think all they need to do this year, survive, get some of the deadwood out of the squad, bring some fresh legs in, some of the players it hasn't quite happened for, maybe see those players off and go again. But it's going to be a scary few months, I think.
I think it's about giving Cowley's the opportunity as well. Like I said, if they do stay up in this division, Cowley's get the whole summer then to build squad, and like what you said there about getting rid of some of the players that maybe the Cowleys sort of probably don't want in the squad, that have got no choice to be playing at the moment, and they can go fresh in the summer and try and build. And I certainly, it kills me to say this because I hate Huddersfield as much as I hate Leeds as a Bradford fan, but I think Huddersfield, you can't write them off. I think if Cowleys have a summer of them, you don't know what to expect next year, depending what backing they have from upstairs.
I think it just shows how hard it can be, like dropping out of the Premier League into the Championship. The standard in the Championship this year has been amazing, and it's so close at the top now. And if you don't get that run early on in the season, you can find yourself really struggling. It happens to nearly every team that comes down. Every team that comes down struggles. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, when they came out of the Prem, they've been stuck out of the Prem for how long now? 20 years?
Yeah, 2 decades, mate.
Yeah, same as Bradford.
Yeah. What, Leeds, 15 years now? Is that right? It's 15, 16 years?
2004, we got relegated.
Oh, 16 years, yeah.
Oh, it's a long time, isn't it? I mean, as a kid growing up, Sheffield Wednesday and Leeds, both Premier League teams, and not just strugglers, they were good Premier League teams.
You won't have to wait long for Leeds, fortunately, but
there's a whole generation of kids that have got no idea that those two teams were ever in the Premier League.
As mad as it sounds, if the Championship was, say, in another country and an equivalent level of a Premier League, a top tier, you'd be perfectly happy playing in the Championship every year because it's really exciting.
Yeah.
In a way, if you could win the Championship every year and have a good team in the Championship consistently and not go up, that'd be great. But obviously you can't do that because of branding, because of money, because of growing your fan base. Like, Leeds need to go up for those reasons as much as we do for competitive reasons, because actually I really enjoy watching Leeds in the Championship. Every game's winnable.
Yeah, and the Championship is a really good quality football. I mean, it's still one of the top leagues in Europe.
Yeah, when you get these Premier League teams who kind of survive every year for maybe 5 or 6 seasons. Villa did it, Fulham did it, kind of Bournemouth, so you Watfords are kind of doing it now. You probably talk to their fans, and they probably actually, were they that bothered if they got relegated? Probably not, because they quite enjoy a season of being successful again, being in the top 6, going to away grounds, being enjoyable football, exciting. To be honest, and what's the alternative? Kind of winning 10 matches in the Premier League, getting to 35, 40 points, surviving. I think, to be honest, the EFL has its knockers, but for me, the Championship is probably the most exciting league in Europe.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, the Premier League seems so detached from fans at the minute as well. Like the EFL, at least you still feel that connection to your club. Bradford is a prime example of that. They're still approachable. As fan media, you can still get involved and you can speak directly to people at the club.
That's why I think Sheffield United have been quite refreshing to the Premier League. Sorry to keep bringing it up, John, but I think they still have that sort of EFL mentality in terms when it comes to the fans, and it is that refreshing, and that's why, for me, I like to see him doing well, because it is something different. It is fans who, I'm not saying other fans don't care, but Sheffield United, just like those, I'd like to say hardcore fans, like they'll be there no matter what, home and away. That's what it is.
Is it patronising? Do you think it's patronising to speak to Sheffield United like we are and like all the media are? It's like talking about this plucky underdog when in actual fact they've just gone into the Premier League and shown everyone what it's all about, really.
I think when you look at the bookies odds at the start of the season for Sheffield United to stay up, let alone do what they're doing, I don't think it's patronising. I think you'd have been a very brave man to say they would go at this level. But
well, I think they were the 2001 to finish top 5 at the start of the season.
Did you have a fiver on it?
Sadly not.
Me neither. But
season's not over yet, mate.
It probably is a little bit patronising in the sense that they definitely deserve to be there. I just think no one could have seen this coming.
I don't think their own fans would have seen it, to be honest with you. So I think obviously all the fans.
No way, they'll have been thinking about a relegation battle or just staying in the Premier League.
Can't believe what they're seeing at the moment. So just enjoy the ride. That's what I say. Enjoy the ride, because, in my opinion, it won't last.
Yeah, probably just enjoying just being above Wednesday for a couple of years. Obviously, it's been a long time. Obviously, it's been cold down at Bramall Lane, it's shadow of the bigger team in Sheffield.
I love when we talk about Sheffield United. John just sits at the table with his head in his arms, while we all talk about him.
Yeah, but even noise in the background, that's just my teeth grinding.
Don't you just I love the shifting power in football. This is what makes the game so exciting. It's what makes it such an incredible sport.
I like reading that James Maddison's not thinking about going to Man United and signing a new contract at Leicester because they've got something good at Leicester. And I think I know what we're saying about the Premier League being, this not as exciting division, but if anything, the money in the Premier League has actually tightened it up a bit, because teams like Leicester now can actually say, if you're going to take Maddison, you're not having him for 20 mil, you're having him for 100 mil, or else he's staying.
But Leicester are a better team than Man United at the minute. They're not a bigger team.
No, yeah.
But they're a better team. They're playing better football. They're a team that I'd like to play for. If it was purely football reasons, I'd go to Leicester over Man United. I think Brendan Rodgers is an unbelievable manager. Very much not Yorkshire, this. But it's a valid point. The power in football is shifting. You think about the early 90s, you'd like to Swindon, Oldham, Norwich, who are in the Premier League and doing all right. And then you look at the 90s, Manchester United, Arsenal, they're dominating. Those two teams now are mid-table Premier League teams. And at the top end of the table, you've got Liverpool, who are returning to power. They've not been they've always been a big team, but they've not been a dominant team in English football for 30 years. And now they're coming back.
Right, guys, this is turning into an actual football discussion here. Can we get back to Yorkshire? Like, how good is Yorkshire tea? Like,
bloody love them.
It's good, isn't it?
Yorkshire tea.
What about Tetleys? I love a Tetley.
Question for you on Yorkshire tea. So I was having this argument in the office the other day. How do you make Yorkshire tea? So I keep the tea bag in, stir it, let it brew for a little bit, and then put the milk in, then take the tea bag out after. What do you do?
Exactly that. That's how Yorkshire tea tell you to make it. Leave it in for 2 minutes to let it brew.
But do you put the tea bag out and then put the milk on the website of Yorkshire Tea website? It says that you take the tea bag out and then put the milk in, but I don't do that. I keep the tea bag in and put the milk in.
Right.
So this has caused a massive debate in our office the other day.
Oh man, it must be class in your office.
Honestly, band off the hook.
No, I go the colour of He-Man's skin.
Correct.
So Google He-Man's skin. That is the perfect colour of tea. Yorkshire tea, you're welcome to use that in any of your marketing.
Yeah, I'll always leave the tea bag in, just so in case I might make a little bit of slip of the wrist, I might put a bit too much milk in, leave tea bag in a bit longer, get a little squeeze.
Oh, you don't want any of those tannins though.
Yeah.
The tannins that come out of there. I once made a flask of tea to take to the footy, left the tea bag in, and had a drink out of it, and it's like mahogany. It's like so dark and like, yeah, I can't drink it.
Anyway, please spread the word of the podcast. As we get bigger, we will try and do Yorkshire tea giveaways, and you never know, it might even get
And Seabrook's crisps. What else is good in Yorkshire?
And then loads of chocolate from Yorkshire.
Yeah, well, Nestle were originally Rowntree's, the Kit Kat, Lion Bar, After 8 Mints, the Yorkie Bar.
We just make everything really.
We'll give all those away.
As we mentioned, Kit Kat, big up York City down in the National League.
Yeah,
Once you
York.
make it back up to the EFL, we'll get a York representative on here.
Yeah, we don't go below the AFL, do we?
We just go to York for horse racing.
Yeah. Great race course.
Maybe a Kit Kat.
The best race course in the world, Yorkshire, according to many of the trainers who I've interviewed.
I've not been to a nicer one. I haven't been to Ascot, granted, but I've not been to a nicer race course in York.
Ripon, Catterick,
Doncaster.
Donny's nice.
Thirsk. Come on.
Yorkshire's wonderful, isn't it? Tour de Yorkshire.
Yorkshire's fucking brilliant.
On that note, Barnsley, they're a good team. They've got their mention. Corley Woodrow.
Fair play though to Barnsley. They got a point against Wednesday last weekend. So yeah.
I mean, that's a disappointing result for Barnsley, surely.
Maybe they just put it on their honours board. So fair play. No, but in fairness, I didn't go to the game, but I listened on the wireless. They were the better team. We were poor. They should have won. That had a really good upturning form at Oakwell. I think they've only lost 1 in 7. Barnsley fans can kind of correct me if that's wrong. But I think they've got a strong chance. I know they had a changing manager. I think if they can kind of keep building on that home form, make it a bit of a fortress, take points off the teams around them, hopefully they'll stop up. Because I don't know about you, but I'm just kind of sick of that Rotherham Barnsley kind of switcheroo from Championship to League One. I don't think they can remember the last time they played each other, can
Just
they?
yo-yoing out, up and down.
Yeah, let's get them in the same league. Come on, guys, sort it out.
What happened at Luton for your guys, by the way? That was a bit of a slip up.
Yeah, I think went EasyJet to Magaluf, mate. Yeah, lovely flight. Yeah, lovely departure lounge. Yeah, cracking.
On that note, we'll bring an end to this, the second episode of the Yorkshire Football Podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to contact us. Adam, socials.
You've caught me out again, but you can catch us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. On Twitter, we are at the Yorkshire FP. On Instagram, as I scroll across my phone, and we are, if you search Yorkshire Football Podcast,
Yeah, just
I can't
search.
find it.
Yeah, fine. And don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Because if you're on Android, you don't have all the easy stuff, do you? It's all difficult. Got to get third-party apps.
We're a difficult bunch.
Yeah. Well, that's it for the Yorkshire Podcast this week. All the best this weekend, and good luck to all Yorkshire teams.
See you there.
Unless you're playing Bradford.
See you there.